great to see you again. For today, we're going to be thinking about words, and we're going to kind of continue what we did yesterday when we were exploring suffixes or inflectional endings. And before we get started, make sure you have some tools to help your thinking, something to write with, something to write on, maybe someone nearby if you want to chit-chat about some of your thinking, a stuffed animal, brother or sister, any of those things will work. Make sure you have all those things. If you do not, take a moment to pause the video and go find those tools. All right, learners, here we go. Yesterday, we explored inflectional endings, and now we know that they're a special kind of suffix. And we know a suffix is a word or group of or it's a letter or group of letters added to the end of words to change its meaning. Yesterday, we learned that we can use what we already know about base words and words, and we can use what we see in text where those words are to help us figure out how a suffix or inflectional ending might be changing the meaning of those words. We talked about how we can create rules in what we notice about patterns or how suffix change meanings of words. We talked about these rules we can make to tell us why certain suffixes do certain things to change the meaning. So, for example, today we are going to focus on the suffix ed. And yesterday we made our chart, and in our chart, the ed ending were in words like jogged, walked, and stretched. Today, we're going to explore these words with this ending a little bit more to see what we might find out. So, we know from yesterday's conversation and what we talked about that when we add ed to words, it changes the word to mean something that has already happened. Let's think and notice more about words that have this inflectional ending ed. Today, I want to teach you that sometimes the ed at the end of words might represent different sounds. So that means that when we read the ed at the end of some words, we might notice that they sound different than ed might usually sound. As readers, this could help us to notice tricky words when we're solving them, to make sure that when we read it, it sounds right and makes sense with what we're reading. As writers, noticing how ed might represent different sounds in words can help us when we're trying to spell new words or tricky words. So let's get into this. I have some words up here, and I'm going to say these words and read these words, and I'm going to notice how the ending sounds. So I'm going to notice how that ed sounds at the end of these words. So watch as I show you. Fixed. Fixed. When I say fixed, I notice that ending, it says ed, but it sounds like a t sound, like the letter T. I noticed that. Painted. Painted. Again, there's that ed ending, but I'm noticing when I say that ending, it sounds like id. Aged. Aged. When I say that word aged, that ed at the end just sounds like t, or the letter d sound, like d. So I have one, fixed, that sounds like the t sound. Painted, that sounds like the id sound. And aged, that sounds like the d sound, like a d makes. So if we were to take these words and sort them, we might see a list. So we have fixed, sounds like a T at the end, or the T sound. Painted sounds like ed at the end, which could be ed or id, ed. And we have aged, that sounds like that D sound. When these letters have these diagonal lines around them, that's showing the kind of sound that it's making. So, t, like a T makes, ed or id, and d, like a D makes. Take a moment to pause the video And with your paper and what you have, your tools for jotting, make a chart like this on a piece of paper that's nearby and see if you can sort the rest of these words with the similar sounding endings. So for example, what other words have an ending that sounds like t, like the word fixed? Put all those in the t column. And the same for ed or id and d. Pause the video now and give that a try. All right, learners, let's take a look at the lists we created. Do your lists match my lists? If so, great. If not, maybe you organize them in a different way. For our learning today, we're going to use this list. So all the words that have the t ending sound, like fixed, walked, asked, talked. Words that have id ending sounds with ed, painted, needed, tasted, ended, and all words that have the d, like the D sound at the end. Aged, sailed, spelled, jogged. So we have these words sorted, and now I'm thinking about what makes the endings sound different. They all have ed at the end, but why do they all sound different? For example, if I'm looking at the letters in the t column, I'm just noticing what about those words might make the ending sound like t. So for example, if I looked at walked and talked, they both have a K before the ed ending. Same thing with asked. So now I'm thinking if a word maybe has the consonant K before the ed, does that make the ed sound like a t? I'm also noticing fixed and asked. They have short vowels in their letters or in their words. So I'm wondering if short vowels maybe have anything to do with the ending sounding like a t. So these are some ideas to think about why maybe patterns in words make endings have different sounds. I want you to take a moment and look at these other two columns on your own and see if you can notice any patterns within the words that might be the reason why the ed at the end is making that sound for that column. Pause the video now and give that a try. Okay, so while you were jotting, I took some time to do my own kind of jotting. And this is what I noticed. We already talked about when ed suffix sounds like t or the letter T. And I mentioned with you that I noticed that it ends with the base word, ends with a K. I could also say that I noticed that it ended with an X. And there were some examples not up here, but one other one I noticed in the word stretched, there was a CH before the ED. I also noticed that the ending sound of the base word are called voiceless sounds. And what that means is when you say the x, sounds, if you put your fingers on your voice box here, you don't feel a vibration. That's because your vocal cords don't put out a noise, so it's just an air coming out to make those sounds. Try it. Try the K sound for walk. Did you feel a vibration? You shouldn't have. So I'm noticing that all of the endings of the base words before the ED are voiceless, or they don't make our vocal cords vibrate. I thought that was interesting. my notes for when the ED sounds like a D or the D sound is I noticed that some of these words have long vowels. Aged, sailed, spell does not, and jog does not, but some of them did. So I made a note that maybe the long vowel has something to do with it. I also noted that these base words end with voiced sounds. So that means if you say the ending sound, ol, as in sail, ol, put your finger on that voice box, you'll feel a vibration. Ol, sailed, and then you add the ending. So when the end sound in the base word before the ED has a voice to it or makes your vocal cords vibrate, that ending sounds like the D, like in D. Remember, when the end letter in the base word does not make your vocal cords vibrate, like in K for walked, then the ED sounds like the T sound in T. But that was kind of interesting. And the last thing I wanted to share with you that I noticed. For the ending sounds that have ed or id, like painted, needed, tasted, ended, look at this. A base word either ended with a T or it ended with a D. Did you notice that too? I found that to be very interesting. So for example, need is the base word, ends in a D. When you add ed, it says need ed. Sounds like that. Paint is the base word. When you add an ed, paint ed, painted. So that tells me that when base words end with a T or a D and you add ed, that ed at the end is going to sound like ed or id. I found that to be very interesting. So why is this also important? Might be a little confusing too, and maybe interesting, not sure. This is important because as readers and writers, we might come across words that look like this. We might come across our stories that maybe want to write words like this, and maybe thinking more about words and knowing them, and knowing what about them makes the ending sound a certain way, or even knowing that ed at the end of a word makes it mean that it already happened, that can help you to make decisions as readers and writers every single day. For example, if I was to write a story about how yesterday my family and I walked in the neighborhood, and maybe I just wasn't sure. But one thing I do know is I said, I know we went for a walk yesterday, and I know I have to add ed, but it sounds like t. As a writer, I can make the decision that I'm going to write ed at the end instead of the T because I know the rule about adding ed to the end of words. There are so many rules and things to notice about words, and all these things are just there to help us as readers and writers. So today and every day, we can remember these things that we notice and we learn and we keep in our brains to help us make more decisions.